Love podcasts, hate shagging your cousin. It's the PoliticsJOE podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
Woo!
Come on, yeah.
Silence from the gallery there.
Yeah, because
Sean's just heard the news. Sean has no prospects now.
knitwear boys today.
Absolutely.
We're on a fucking roll.
It's cozy season.
It's cuffing season.
It's cuffing season.
It's not cousin cuffing season.
It's you still got time over Christmas dinner. Glass of wine.
What will the rest of the family think if they saw that happening?
Who cares?
I really want to watch PMQs. I think I took one too many reallys in there.
What's that?
If you want to be my lover, you gotta watch
be
PMQs.
If you be my lover, you gotta be my dad's brother's son.
Oh, well, that's an interesting one.
Yep.
Is cousin fucking all right if it's gay? Because there's no sort of genetic risk there.
Right.
Didn't see this one coming, did you, Campbell?
Is shagging your brother okay if you're gay?
No, it's not.
But that's
No,
the same.
I want to be clear. Neither is okay. I was just asking questions.
Just asking questions, and it's important to test these theories. Let us know in the live chat whether or not your brother's hot.
It would be good if my guy Iqbal Mohammed stood up and was like, but what about people who have hot cousins?
No one is speaking for them.
And I didn't speak up
Do you have a
because
lot-
I don't have a hot cousin.
How many cousins do you have?
How many cousins have I got? 4.
Right. So your options are few and far between. You're also already married.
It's slim pickings on the cousin front.
Yeah,
I won't lie to you. 2 of them live in the southern hemisphere, so long distance would be difficult.
And the closest to her,
The other 2,
straight
no,
uglies.
I tell you what, the other 2 aren't blood relations to me. So
So they're not your cousins.
well, I view them as such. I refer to them as such.
But legally, you're in the clear.
no, legally they are my cousin
But how can't you be related? Why
because
are you not blood related to them?
my mum's parents divorced. Her mum remarried, and to the man she remarried to, he had a son, and so
Oh, they are your blood. You're blood related to them. Then.
no. So 2 people already have children.
Right.
They then marry.
You're like your step cousins.
I really struggle with the whole first cousin, second cousin, cousin once removed thing.
Right.
A cousin is a cousin is a cousin, as far as I'm concerned.
No, everyone-
And they are all off the table. Should clarity be required, they're all off the table.
Yeah.
I made the point to you yesterday that there are more than 8 billion people on the planet, and you should be able to find one of them who's willing to fuck you that isn't your cousin.
Yeah, that was a good point. I think
Good point.
We talked about this. We were like, "Oh, should we do this at the end?" But we're straight in. Iqbal Mohammed was like, "Well, if cousins are having sex anyway and they have a child, it'll be born out of wedlock." And well, they probably shouldn't be having sex.
Yeah, I think that the horse has bolted.
we
At-
can't
at
have
that
more
point.
bastards. Oh,
The fact they're inbred is fine.
incest, fine. A bastard born of incest.
Oh,
Can't possibly
brother.
have that.
Yeah, it's bad. It's real bad. So other than the fact that obviously the British monarchy has a long tradition of rogering your cousin,
Yes.
and certain political sections of the British body politic didn't have a problem with it then, why do you think they have a problem with it now? And again, to be clear, I'm not endorsing cousin marriage.
It is interesting. Why is this suddenly a priority for Richard Holden when he didn't say a thing about it when he was in government? When they could have done something. Labour have said they probably won't. This isn't a legislative priority for them.
Did I see? Was it Shabana Mahmood said something like, "We've got a wider review into sort of marriage law, and this may form a part of it," or something like that. Was her answer, I think, to the question in Parliament.
But what I actually think Iqbal Mohammed has fallen for a trap set by the Conservatives.
Do you?
In that what they're trying to do is highlight cultural differences in Muslim immigrant communities and use that as a rod with which to beat them and say, look, their customs are alien to the British way of life, whatever. Iqbal Mohammed has fallen for that trap, and now he is the face of that.
Yeah. What I will say is, if any sort of ethnic group has a tradition of cousin marriage, I am for legislating against it to prevent them from doing it in this country.
And like the damage done to children born from, how do you say that? Is consanguinity?
I assume it's consanguinity. Yeah,
Consanguinity.
I've never said that word out loud before just now, so I wouldn't know.
Oh, it's good. It's always good to take a risk, though, isn't it? It's good to feel alive. Like
Ed told himself as he spun the bottle in the circle of his cousins. You've got to live on the edge. Have you read Hunter S. Thompson's bit about the edge?
No.
Oh, he has this unreal, I don't know, a few paragraphs where he's writing about like taking his Harley out and basically just opening it up all the way and running all the lights on the coastal road out from, I think, San Francisco. And I won't even try and paraphrase it because the writing is incredible, but he basically he's talking about that once you're going over 100, you don't have glasses on, your eyes are burning, you can't see in front of you, and you get as close as you think you can to the edge, but the reality is you don't know where it is because the only people that know where it is are people who have gone over it.
Ooh.
And then don't come back.
And that's how you think cousin fuckers are feeling?
They're just libertines.
Very French of them.
They're just free loving, countercultural. I guess the ironic thing is presumably a large number of these people are actually quite conservative in their sort of political beliefs. If you're married, in their cultural beliefs, if you're into cousin marriage,
they probably don't let two boy cousins get married. That's probably out of the question.
What do you think the reason is we haven't legislated for this before in this country in the last 1,000 years? Is it the fact that it wasn't an issue before? Is it the fact, and by implication, that sort of high levels of immigration from countries where this practice is normalised have introduced it to the UK to the point now where we have to ban it? Where do you think the legislation comes from? Is it just that it wasn't really viewed as a high priority? Is it just culture war, and because people want you to make that argument, the one I've just made about people of different cultural backgrounds? What is it?
Yeah, I think it's culture war, and I think it is. What you should do is everyone should look at that legislation and be like, "Oh yeah, gross, approved." But instead, if you're trying to defend quite grotesque practices just by virtue of them being from a minority community, you are fueling the flame that they would like you to fan. Yeah, you're providing them with their own argument of look at like woke gone mad, wokeists defend cousin shagging. Yeah, and I actually, to be honest, I think the only person I've seen really defending it is Iqbal Muhammad. I think he seems to be the one who has fallen for the trap. The vast majority of people I've seen on the woke side of the culture war, I think have been like, yeah, gross. Yeah,
look, I think I'm fine with us sort of adopting the political position as a country that if you are an immigrant who wishes to engage in incest, you won't be able to engage in incest in the UK because without wanting to sort of tread on anyone's toes, France is always available for you. Should you be looking for somewhere to settle where that thing isn't frowned upon and probably actually actively encouraged in some
remarkably
instances.
Popular.
Yeah,
10%.
Just for people who might not be familiar with the podcast canon, what is the statistic you're referring to?
10% of people in France are victims of incest, which I think is one of the most extraordinary. I found that out from an obituary of a French actress who was like an activist against that. It wasn't the initial news story. This news has been around for 10 years.
It's pretty damning, isn't it?
And they're doing nothing.
In France, they require activists on that issue.
Yeah.
I've been a vocal campaigner all my life against the practice of incest. Yeah. How much of it's consensual? How much of it's child abuse?
So the victim suggests it's unconsensual. Yeah. It's not like cousins having like consensual
relationships who love each other,
or like groom brothers and sisters. I think it suggests like a predatory aspect to it, which is pretty gross.
Yeah. Well, I think we've made our stance clear.
Yes.
Don't shag your cousin.
Yes. And if you're thinking about it, don't.
He's really giving some sound
really
effects.
Vocal about it. You'd hate to make any assumptions about Sean from his reaction. reaction to this?
Is it time for I really want to do PMQs?
Yes. Yeah. Do you think they've ever had any thoughts about their cousins?
If you want to be well, no. I don't think most people have. Although there was. Were you in the office yesterday when one of our colleagues told the story about
that was insane.
Her friend at an after party who, apropos of nothing, just told all of her friends that she had shagged her cousin. The Spanish Inquisition would not be able to extract that information if it was true, which it's not.
Well, it's like, do you know the thing is like...
I feel like I'm sort of almost... I'm almost involving myself in a crime by denying it so relentlessly on the show, but I do feel we do have to make clear.
Would you rather have had sex with your cousin and no one knew about it, or everyone thought you'd had sex with your cousin?
Oh, classic! Yeah, this is the one.
The goat one.
Yeah, it's the goat. That's where I've heard this one before. Essentially, the question is: would I rather carry a moral burden for the rest of my life, or be a social pariah? Mm-hmm. There are no good answers.
Zero. You could decline to answer.
No, there's no fun in that. Fucking come on.
Okay.
Okay. I think the right thing to say is not shag your cousin, and everyone thinks you did, because at the end of the day, you haven't done the shagging.
Yep.
Therefore, no harm has been done. It's just you. Your reputation is in tatters. You are no longer a man about the ton, as they would say. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if that's what I would say, because I think I'm a weak man, and I think I would rather carry a horrific moral burden for the rest of my life, but still have some quality of life. Mm-hmm.
But
what would you choose?
See, the stigma against cousins isn't such as your sibling. Like if someone's if that story that our colleague had told, if that person had been like, oh yeah, I had sex with my brother, that person would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Get out of my house right now. Our colleague seemed to suggest that they were still part of their friend group.
Well, she said it killed the vibe at the afters.
Oh, if that's the worst that can happen, it kills the vibe.
Yeah, okay, fine. So there are orders of magnitude. I like to think of it like Dante's Inferno.
Yeah.
There are sort of concentric rings of...
Where are the cousin fuckers in...
They're close to the bottom. They're close to the seventh ring, yeah. Is it seven? Is it 7 or 8, yeah. Well, it's actually the bottom, I think. I think they descend.
Oh, so people get worse?
Yeah, I think so. No, I'm saying they're around there. I think worst is probably parent, then it's sibling, then it's cousin. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cousins and grandparents are probably all sort of...
Grandparents!
I mean, this conversation is ludicrous, Ed.
Okay. Everyone think, would you rather...
Can we just establish what your answers were on that?
Yeah, you didn't answer the question.
No, I didn't. Yeah, I think I'm the same camp. I don't know if I could deal with the social ostracization or the risk for greater ostracization
than you already suffer.
Yeah. But ultimately, it's so gross.
Of course, you opposed to it on the grounds that sex is gross, not that incest is gross.
I'm a Volcel.
I think the correct answer is don't actually do it.
Yeah.
But everyone thinks you've done it.
Yeah, I think that's the correct answer.
You just have to shoulder that burden.
It's a bit like the Crucible,
right?
In that they don't actually engage in witchcraft, but everyone thinks they do, and they have to bear the punishment.
Highbrow, this pod.
Absolutely. Hunter S. Thompson, Arthur Miller. Good lord.
Lightly folded into a batter that is largely consisted of gags about incest.
Well, we start each one with a gag about paedophilia. So
we set the tone, yeah.
Yeah. They're not surprised.
They know what they're getting.
Yeah. They'll be annoyed that we haven't talked about PMQs yet, I guess.
Well, yeah, should we do PMQs?
Yeah.
Roll the clip.
Mr. Speaker, he says he wants to smash the gangs. The only thing he's smashed is his own reputation. The fact is, what what he has been agreeing is not going to do anything. The cost of the Iraq agreement is £500,000. That wouldn't even buy a house in his constituency. Many of the things he's taking credit for are our agreements. Let's talk about what he put in his manifesto. The Prime Minister promised to end asylum hotels. He promised, he's the Prime Minister now, he promised, but in Altrincham and Peterborough, his government is expanding the use of asylum hotels because he unilaterally disarmed the deterrent. In fact, Mr. Speaker, a man who arrived by small boat told Sky News he was happy Labour were in power. That man said the Conservatives, and I quote, wanted to deport us, but Labour are making the procedure easier for us. He's right, isn't he?
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I really thought she should welcome the Iraq deal. Anybody who wants to deal with this vile trade would have welcomed it. She should also welcome the German deal that we did this week. Many of the boats that are finding their way to the Channel are coming through Germany. That is well documented. There's been a difficulty in taking enforcement action, which if she spent more time researching that than her terrible jokes, she would know about. And we have signed an agreement to smash and take enforcement action in Germany to stop those boats getting to the coast. That is effective action. She should welcome it. It's really good news. All law enforcement think it's a good thing. Why does she think it's a bad thing?
Because the numbers are going up, Mr. Speaker, under his watch. The Prime Minister has consistently backed criminals over law-abiding British people. He defended terrorists like Hizb ut-Tahrir in the European Court. He argued all immigration law had a racist undercurrent. He voted against life sentences for people smugglers. He voted against more than 100 measures to control migration. He even said it was wrong. He even said, Mr. Speaker, that it was wrong when the Conservatives took away Shamima Begum's citizenship. Now he has appointed her defence lawyer as his Attorney General. Mr. Speaker, events in Syria mean we may see more small boat arrivals. For once, will he take the side of the British people and strip citizenship from jihadi terrorists and supporters of Assad who want to come back and destroy this country?
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I was Director of Public Prosecution for 5 years. Unlike anyone on their benches, I was prosecuting for 5 years hundreds of thousands of criminals. That includes huge terrorist gangs, rapists. I was working for 3 of those 5 years with the then Home Secretary Theresa May, who commended the work that I did at the end of those 5 years. So for her to stand there and say, I haven't done anything in law enforcement, I dedicated 5 years of my life to law enforcement, locking up criminals, which is more than she can say. And it would be easier to take the opposition seriously if they actually got serious. Not a slither of remorse, not a hint of contrition. It's like the arsonist complaining about the people who are trying to put the fire out. And all they do is come every week with more and more complaints. Just wait till they get their hands on the people that created the mess that we are clearing up. We're fixing the economy, we're ending their open borders policy, we're taking down the waiting list. That's what people voted for. We're delivering it.
Ed, the bulk of the exchanges between Kemi Badenoch and Keir Starmer today were about immigration. And if I was to ask you who you think benefits from Keir Starmer and Kemi Badenoch going backwards and forwards on immigration, who would you say?
Well, it certainly isn't either of them. Kemi Badenoch was in the government that has let in record numbers of immigrants. Keir Starmer has a record of being remarkably pro-immigration in his capacity when he was in opposition. So who has...
And as a lawyer as well.
And as a lawyer.
Yeah, did a lot of pro bono work for overseas criminals, didn't he, against the death penalty.
Who in this country has a dyed-in-the-wool record of being anti-immigration that could possibly benefit? It might just be Nigel Farage, who is becoming clearer as kind of a threat to all parties, not just the Conservatives.
Would we say that Farage was squatting like a toad?
Yes.
Over that session of
hate
PMQs.
That imagery.
I have no idea where it comes from.
But
why is it popularised? But it was
Tim Shipman, wasn't it? About
was
Boris.
it? Oh, did he do it first?
I think it was.
He can't be the first usage of squatting like a toad.
That's certainly the first time that I heard it.
Sean, you'll definitely be able to do a search on that. Yeah. Thank you.
What is a toad? First question.
How does one squat?
It's so gross. I think it's such a hideous image.
There's a lot of nice pictures of squatting.
Okay.
Squatting toads?
Oh, like a toad, yeah, 1 sec.
Sean was just looking at pictures of tight arses.
Yeah, look, I think Kemi Badenoch, the central challenge for her is to try and create distance between her brand of the Conservative Party and that which governed for the last 14 years. That's a very complex, lengthy, and quite hard process to engage with. The way that Starmer did it with Labour post-Corbyn is pretty impressive. And her, as you mentioned, nearly 1 million people with the revised figures, nearly 1 million arrivals. Some very, very high figures. It really does. If you look at the graph of it, you think where we were before when we were sort of like 300,000 net or whatever. Oh, wow, that's really high. And then it hockey sticks, right, with Ukraine, Hong Kong. And that's to say, I'm not saying I oppose those refugee programs in the slightest. But if you relentlessly campaign on immigration, your party says it will get immigration down into the tens of thousands, and then legal arrivals, the people which you quite literally permit, you provide them with permits, you allow them into the country, a touching 7 figures, you're in trouble. And I think there's a lesson there for Starmer as well. That, namely, if you foreground an issue for the electorate,
For being the main one.
and then not only fail to meet the objective you set yourself, but actually swing so far in the other direction, you've made your bed. You will now sleep in it.
Is pretty interesting tactic from Badenoch. You say she wants to disassociate herself from the previous brand of the Conservative Party by going after their biggest failing in the eyes of many.
Yeah.
Is it similar to it's like Ed Miliband in opposition talking about the Iraq War?
Yeah.
Like something that the worst thing
yeah.
that government is responsible for.
Yeah,
and you're
yeah.
going well, why aren't you... Why
aren't you doing anything?
Are you doing anything about Saddam Hussein?
Why is the Chilcot inquiry taking so long, Dave?
It's like that. It's like that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh, have you heard of ISIS? This is bad.
David Cameron, answer for your crimes. The de-Baathification of Iraq led to a power vacuum which was filled by ISIS. How do you answer that assertion, sir?
If you look at Iraq now, devastated.
They found no WMDs.
You've been in power for
Why are we there?
You've been in power for 5 months now. Why have you not rebuilt Iraq? Why haven't you done this?
Yeah, so that would obviously be an insane thing to do.
But she's doing
And
it.
she's doing it.
She's
yeah.
doing it.
I think she's. There's time, right? 4.5 years till the next election. There is time for her to turn it around. Events can change the calibration of our politics quite quickly. But from what I've seen so far, I think she's in a real rough spot.
Yeah.
And for Starmer, I would urge caution. It's a point I've made before on the pod. Foregrounding immigration and controls and deportations and everything else because you think you can sort of combat anti-immigrant sentiment from the right in that way is a very, very dangerous game. You can look to America and the way that the Biden-Harris administration spent years criticizing Trump's policies and then adopted large parts of it as they approached the election, and it was not good enough. Didn't work for them. You will never be xenophobic enough for your detractors on the right. And if you feed that dragon, it gets stronger and eventually it consumes you.
Also because it's inauthentic.
Oh, yeah.
And the voters...
Well, they know he doesn't think that.
It won't pass the sniff test at all.
Keystone of his Labour leadership pledge, defending freedom of movement with the EU. Right.
But part of that as well is immigration... There's a good chance immigration would have been lower if we had open borders or freedom of movement with the EU, because people now come and settle and they can't leave. Whereas now previously they come to the UK, work for a few years and go. But now if you're migrating to the UK legally, you're building a new life here.
Dublin Agreement meant you could return illegal arrivals as well. Yeah.
See, the problem for Badenoch, though, is literally whatever policy area she chooses. Like, well, it was worse under you. That is the response.
That's the response. Yeah.
That is the response.
We're cleaning up your mess, which is what he said. He said something quite funny to her as well.
But her shit jokes.
Yeah, I like that. It was like if she actually said something like, if you focused rather than like spending time writing shit jokes. Didn't say shit, obviously, but yeah, that was a good line.
Her delivery is clear. It's like she hasn't. It's not natural enough yet.
Yeah,
It's very like I am doing a speech in front of my class.
yeah. I think she'll get better at that.
You'd hope so. Then also, I don't know how she's not better at it because she was a minister.
I think they're all bad at it though. I genuinely, I don't listen to them. And that could be Keir, it could be Ange, it could be Burkhart. That was his name, wasn't it? The stand-in the other day, yeah. Or whoever else it is. Yeah. Dowden was quite good. They don't... The mechanism of delivery is often very stilted. It does not sound natural. And I'm reminded, as we were with the death of John Prescott, seeing all those old clips of him in there, and you go, that's a million miles away from sort of the standard and level of communication that we have now in the Parliament.
I don't know. I don't think I think Starmer's better than you maybe give him credit for.
Do you think?
I actually think he just has an unfortunate style of speech. So I think there is actually a ceiling.
But is that not what communication is?
True, but he's working with what he has, right? Like and I think he's quite witty at the dispatch box. I think he uses the performance of it as he can be like, if he's not asked a serious question, he's like, what a fucking waste of time that was, and treats it with contempt, which I think is actually quite an effective thing.
Yeah,
there was a good
as opposed to when he is asked a serious question and also doesn't answer
and doesn't answer the question. But with him, is it Chris Law, the SNP MP?
Quite possibly.
He asked today. So, a recent polling in Scotland shows that Scottish support for Scottish independence is now at 54%, and he said, this is ultimately kind of a waste of a question, but he was like, who do you think better represents the interest of the Scottish people, the Scottish government or you? And Starmer goes, the however many Scottish Labour MPs that were elected on the 4th of July, they're over here. Question over. And the whole exchange lasted 15 seconds.
Yeah.
So you do kind of neutralise, he's quite good at neutralising threats like that.
Yeah.
And he's not rattled by that.
I don't think he's rattled by much, to be fair.
He should be more rattled, I think.
Yeah, if I was him, I'd be rattled. I'd be out in front of the fans doing this. It would be, it would be bad.
But what does he do? Just one election win. What was the voting percentage? Like 35% or something?
How would you depict like a 107 seat majority with your hands?
One.
Yeah, 1.
7.
Yeah, I don't know what hand gesture he would do to represent his election victory.
Get it tattooed on his face?
Yeah, his net favourability is now lower than Donald Trump's.
Sick.
Farage, there was one poll, but Reform were ahead of Labour in a recent poll. I would be rattled. We talked about it on Newsnight last night. Actually, the political editor Nick Watt said, I asked a senior Labour person about this. We were talking about Reform, and they said they were impressed and a little worried or anxious or something. But and then Nick Watt added, but they're not panicking about this. And I sort of, you would say that. You would say we're not panicking about this. But if I was them, I'd be shitting bricks right now.
Yeah. But it's good not to panic. It's good to keep a clear, cool-headed mind and keep your mind focused on the missions.
Absolutely.
And the pledges.
And the foundations.
I
wonder, because we had, 5 missions for government? Was it 3 foundational issues?
Uh-huh.
I can't remember how many pledges there have been.
A lot.
And I was beginning to wonder if they think the thing that they're getting wrong is just the number. So it's like, next we'll do 6, and then 7, and then 8, and maybe one of these will land.
69.
Nice.
There'd be 420 pledges. Something epic like that. Do you think that's going to be the impact of like Musk on Reform? Is it's going to become
memeable?
Like,
they're already pretty memeable, to be fair.
But not in like a deliberate way. Not in like a... They don't think they're like funny.
I think they do think they're funny.
No, I think they're very self-serious as a party.
Do you?
Yeah. That's a story about Farage at the Spectator Dinner Awards. Was like, apparently the Spectator Awards is when like journalists and politicians go and just like suck each other off for like an hour.
Are any of them cousins?
I couldn't possibly say.
Let's hope not.
Knowing the Westminster insiders, probably. But Farage was like not joining in with kind of the tongue-in-cheek element of the evening and was like, we're coming for you. We're coming for all of you. I think they're quite self-serious.
I quite enjoy that.
Party.
No, I disagree. I think there's a TikTok I remember from the election where Farage is like walking through a greengrocer's and there's a stack of melons and he sort of like, his TikToker is filming him and he just looks at him. He's like, "Oh, lovely melons," and they just ran that standalone as a video. Obviously, the sound sort of trends. I don't think they do that with Starmer. I don't think Kemi Badenoch does that. Like that is shit posting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Was that Farage's social media? I suppose it's ultimately the one the same, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think I can't imagine like.
No, I take your
Richard
point.
Tice is.
I mean,
opinion of himself is quite high.
I've had engagements with Richard Tice on TV, and he goes. I remember him shouting at me, being like, we were talking about irregular channel crossings, and I said, "I'll open up a processing centre in Dover, so no one has to make the crossing." And he shouted at me, "They're dying in the channel, man!" And it's that is that connects to your point.
But then also like Ed Davies doing his thing of like challenging Starmer to play FIFA every day.
Oh fucking hell, that's bad.
But it's doing semi numbers. It's cringe.
What's the world come to? Ed?
It's cringe and it's bad, but ultimately it's getting numbers. And is that?
Have we talked about that? The other fucking wrong and in Reform.
Oh, James McMurdo.
Yeah, the fact that 20% of Reform's parliamentary party are wife beaters.
Yeah. And they seem to be. Oh, was it Farage said he's a good example to tearaways?
Yeah.
There's a difference between like someone who's like, I don't know, a thief or kicking his girlfriend in the face.
Look, so for me actually, broadly speaking, I think criminals deserve a second chance, and I think actually everyone is deserving of a second chance realistically, and I don't think you're defined by your worst actions. I think you as a person are the sum of more than that. Although I do have to say, laying your hands on a woman is a bit of a red line for me. But he was 19, he was very young, he did his time, and if he was now repentant, contrite about it,
show any contrition,
I would have a conversation with you about whether or not I could extend forgiveness to a person like that. But the fact of the matter remains that he has lied about the severity of the offence, right? He says publicly that he pushed his girlfriend. The court documents show that he kicked her 4 times. So I don't think you can be a reformed character if you are not contrite.
Yeah.
If you're unrepentant and if you're minimising the seriousness of what you did to your personal advantage later in life, that to me is not the mark of someone who has sort of grappled with the severity of what they've done and wants to make good for it.
Like he didn't disclose it.
Well, yeah.
Like that's part of it. Like they could have handled the comms of it quite differently and done a profile of him as like, I did this when I was younger. I regret it. I've worked extremely hard in these ways and changed. And that's why I think I'm the right person to be a member of parliament who should have a higher moral bearing than the average person.
Yep.
But if you're showing absolutely zero contrition about it, then it's pretty inexcusable.
Yeah.
And also from a party perspective as well. Like this is like they're determined to professionalise. And still having him in your camp and not kind of putting him out into the cold for a bit. But like, it could be like, we're suspending the whip, internal investigation.
Yeah.
In a month, he's back.
Present like a professional outfit, yeah.
Or just, even if you don't care, pretend to care.
Optics, I guess.
Because I think people in this country, what do they hate? What do they hate more? Immigrants or wife beaters?
That's a question.
Or cousin fuckers?
Wife beaters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd probably agree with you.
Yeah. Scum. Right.
We
didn't plan to sort of to go there, but I think it's important that we did. Do you want to do a brief note on farming, Sean? How long have we been rolling for, brother?
Just over half an hour.
I think we maybe call it there, Ed.
Do you want to say anything about farmers?
Up the farmers.
Up the farmers.
Up the fucking farmers. Yeah.
Ed
Davey asked about it. All right, come on then. Roll the clip.
Democrats are Ed Davey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
While Syrians are rejoicing at the overthrow of the brutal Assad regime, many people then around the world are worried about what comes next, as the Prime Minister indeed said, with the threats of extremism, ISIS terrorism and unsecured chemical weapons. Only an open political process can bring peace and stability, but that will require the full backing of the international community. So does the Prime Minister share my concern that President-elect Trump said about Syria, and I quote, "The United States should have nothing to do with it"? If America walks away and steps away, will he step up and work with other allies to provide British leadership over Syria?
Prime Minister.
He's right to say this is a very serious moment. We all welcome the fall of Assad. I hope this can be a turning point for Syria, a much-needed turning point, but that is by no means guaranteed, and that is why we've been speaking intently and intensely with our allies in the region across the globe about how we ensure that this is peaceful, it is political, and it's a rejection of terrorism and violence. This could be a turning point, but in the past we've always thought that what comes next is necessarily better. That hasn't turned out to be the case, and that's why we're working so hard on this and showing the leadership that he and the House would expect from this government.
Sir Ed Davey.
Can I thank the Prime Minister for that reply, and I hope we can continue to work on a cross-party basis to do Britain's role in securing peace and stability in the Middle East. But moving on to another subject, Mr. Speaker, British farmers are the best in the world. Yeah. They are the best in the world because of our tradition of family farms, where from generation to generation a commitment to high-quality food, to our precious environment, animal welfare, is passed down. But family farms were let down badly by the last Conservative government, with their botched transition to new payment schemes and their unfair trade deals with Australia and New Zealand that have undercut British farmers. Now, many family farms feel the government's budget will be the final blow. So will the Prime Minister change course and recognise the vital role that British family farms play?
Yeah. Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as he knows, we put £5 billion into farming over the next 2 years. That's a record number under the budget. Last week alone, £350 million to support farmers in the United Kingdom. That does contrast with the last government, who was an underspend of £300 million in relation to farmers. In relation to inheritance tax, as he knows, in a typical family case, the threshold is £3 million, and therefore the vast majority of farmers will be unaffected, despite the fear-mongering of the party opposite.
As we speak, Ed, the farmers are gridlocking Westminster.
Yep.
Another protest. That's why Ava's not here.
Yep.
She's there.
Driving a tractor.
Yeah. Spraying cow shit.
She's taking it a bit far, to be honest.
She's an adjunct provocateur.
She's an agent of the state,
Yeah.
trying to disrupt the protest.
False flagging, yeah.
Yep.
Ed Davey raised the point in Parliament. Do they have a point, the farmers? Talk to me about the politics of it, Ed.
So first of all, someone needs to get to the bottom of the number.
Yes,
That's
true.
Labour say it's going to be 500 farms are affected by this, and the NFU say it's going to be tens of thousands. It can't. Both of those things can't be true.
They don't scan those two numbers.
Like, I think until we know what the number actually is, the conversation moves nowhere, because it's two different arguments entirely, isn't it? Because the NFU can't engage with the government on that number because they'd have to accept that number being accurate, and vice versa with Labour. So until there is like an actual figure, then it's a very difficult issue to have a conversation about. Ultimately, though, farmers have been very badly treated in this country for a very long time,
Yep.
and you understand their frustration. It is interesting, though, like, even if, like, why didn't Kevin Badenoch ask this question? Because under the Conservative government, the farmers were treated
If you were her,
appallingly.
what would you ask about?
Ask Starmer about.
Yeah.
That's a good question. That is actually quite a good question.
What would, genuinely, you've got 6 questions, once a week, every week. What the hell would you do?
Would you just do like cronyism? No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't do that. Damn it. No. What the hell would you ask? Like,
Winter fuel?
yeah.
That's the thing as well. I think it's been an interesting strategy, which has essentially involved just sort of kicking different demographics, shaking them down for cash.
And not.
First up, the pensioners.
Do you
Next, the farmers.
Do you think
next, the cousin fuckers?
Do you think the 20 billion? Do you think they're going to put a tax on cousin fucking? Sort of like oh no, it would become like a cousin brothel.
Yeah, that's bad.
And they can't have that.
No, they can't have that. That's worse, I think, than what we have so far.
Great news. We banned cousin fucking, except your cousin can be compelled by the state to have sex with you.
If you pay us enough, yeah.
But yeah, I think like, and the point Davey makes about the practice of farming and the culture of family farming. We were having a conversation in the office, and I made the point like, farming isn't an innate skill. You can learn it. So the threat to farming can be learnt if the
of course, yeah.
If the economic situation was different.
Yeah, there are agricultural colleges where they teach it for sure. You can learn. There's no doubt about that.
But the problem is that absolutely no one wants to become a farmer.
Yep.
So
the only people that want to become farmers are the children of farmers.
You're dependent. There was that's what the farm I went to in Lincolnshire during the election. It was like, and this is my son.
Yeah.
He's learning how to be a farmer.
Yeah. No, it's a family business. Yeah, and that is why these dispensations have been here, because if they're not able to pass their farms down through the generations, it genuinely poses a risk to the food supply, because nobody wants to do it. So possibly that then leads to a conversation about changing the economics of farming to the point where actually it becomes a lucrative enough trade. It will always be hard work, but a lucrative enough one that it actually attracts other people who want to go into it.
Mm-hmm. I think when Ed Davey does his questions, it is like, well, now PMQs has begun. Now it's the serious questions.
Yeah, he quite often. I feel like we sort of felt this way before, when Starmer was the leader of the opposition,
and then it went to Flynn,
where quite often Flynn would actually hit on he'd be more reactive, he'd be more contemporaneous in the issues he would talk about, and it's not really the same with Davey. But what Davey does is he's quite often hits serious subject matter.
Yes, yeah.
He's far less,
and it seems less. Oh, what's Davey's angle?
Yeah,
Davey it's like Davey has a question. And it's actually good for the country if we know the answer to this.
Davey has a question and nobody puts Davey in the corner.
No one puts Davey in the corner because he'll challenge you to a game of bloody FIFA. Which is.
Do you think you could beat Ed Davey at FIFA?
Yes, I think so. I think he's an old man who doesn't play FIFA. I don't think he's ever played a games console. Do you buy him as gamer?
No.
Do you buy gamer?
Also, it's not called FIFA anymore as well.
Yeah, it's called EA
FC. Yeah.
So my mum said at Christmas last year, I think, about her brother, like, could I beat my uncle in a fight? And I said, yes. And she went, why? I was like, he's an old man. He's a man in his 60s, and I think he smokes 30 cigarettes a day.
And he would go down fast and hard.
I've been watching one punch straight to the temple. I'd kill him. But I think you could beat most of the people at young person things.
Just fucking target the liver and spleen.
Could you beat your dad in a fight?
Yeah.
I don't think I could beat my
I have
dad
done in the past.
Have you?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
It's a story for another day.
Jesus. My dad's really big.
Tell you what, fucking big man. And he makes a mean breakfast as well, your dad.
He does. And a good stew.
Yeah, that was fucking class.
That was, if the audience won't know this, Ollie and I stayed at my house and my dad had a spread. But he texted me the menu of what we were going to eat for the time that we were there. It was Guinness stew and an enormous Scottish breakfast.
It's a novel experience meeting one of your employees' parents.
Yeah.
And then staying in their house.
Yeah. It's probably like parents' evening for me.
me and your dad auditing you.
The teacher
walk the dog. That was nice as well. That was lovely.
We just met the Fraser family.
We had.
That was an intense day.
Very intense. Very intense. If anyone is interested in fighting content, Go to the joe.co.uk YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Our colleague Tom Usher has just published a dispatch from the bare knuckle hay bale fighting pit of Rochdale.
Yes.
It's fucking good stuff.
It is. It looked
Terrifying.
Spartan.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, it's called the
It's called
Spartan Fight Club.
But I was
yeah.
like, these people, this is absolutely insane. It was.
I think the ring looks about as big as the table, to be honest with you.
And like just fucking
Swinging,
bare knuckle.
Bare knuckle swinging.
Tom was like barely one fight lasted more than a round.
Yeah.
And people were just in and out in like 10 seconds.
They're quick, yeah. Savage. Nasty, brutish, and short for the politics fans.
More! More!
So check that out.
That's a good thing you didn't report on it because you'd have said that.
I would have,
And they'd have
and then I
kicked
would have got
the shit
battered.
out of
I would
you.
have got battered in the corner, yeah. You do put Ollie in the corner. No one puts Davey in the corner. You put
And
Ollie
they kick the
in
shit
corner.
out of you.
Yeah. You're going to have a piece out soon. That's good. They already know about that.
Yep. About people getting their pieces out.
Is that what we call it?
No, not just that, but certainly a feature.
Getting your piece out.
Yeah. I saw more pieces that day than I have done recently.
Did you see more pieces that day than you've seen in your life? At porn school, if no one's
No, probably
following
not.
the conversation.
No, I don't think so.
How many pieces did you see?
I think 3. I've seen
Right,
more. I've
okay.
seen more than 3 pieces. 3 penises in my life.
We played rugby, didn't we?
Yeah.
Did play rugby. We used to shower with our pants on though. Because if you didn't, it was gay.
You fucking fannies.
It was gay.
What? Yeah, right, sure.
You can't see another boy's penis. It's gay.
Yeah, of course, naturally. it is.
So you're just like-
Do you know what the plural of penis is? It's not penises.
Peni?
Correct.
Is that real?
No.
Okay. What a beautiful bouquet of peni.
That's the collective noun, though. It is bouquet. Yeah, I think it would either be peni or just pie.
Yeah.
Or penai.
Or
Plural of snails?
should we tell them what joking is?
We can in a minute. Plural of, plural of snails?
Snize.
No, just sny. You wouldn't,
Right.
there's no need for the S.
Okay, I think that didn't quite pick up the
Yeah,
inference.
well, you idiot. Yeah, you should have
I
got
would
that.
fail that in like, your SAT or
Non-verbal
whatever.
reasoning, yeah.
Yeah, I would fail that.
What were you going to do? What were you
Tell
going
about joking.
Yes, I guess we could tell them about jelking. Yeah,
If you don't know what joking is, I'm trying to remember what it is as well.
I can't remember what it is. So
I think
you're going
it's
to have
what-
to lead on this.
it's
You
what-
suggested the topic. You need to explain it. Oh, sorry, I'm not doing any heavy
It's
lifting for you.
it's
here.
a trend which I don't really believe exists.
I've understood it to be a level up from gooning.
I think it's similar but different. I think it's about
It's
making
in the
your
same
dick,
cinematic
it's in your
universe.
making your dick bigger by kind of like giving yourself a Chinese burn, almost like creating some micro tears in your penis skin, and eventually it'll get bigger. And I imagine it would kind of look like an anteater or something. Because you're just making the skin bigger, like.
Right, I think that's enough for one day. Don't you?
The great news is we've got 2 more podcasts to record.
We certainly do.
Right now.
You lot are going to get some Christmas content, I tell you.
Absolutely. And you'll be able to tell because we're wearing the same clothes.
I'm actually going to gradually strip off.
Oh!
I won't be knitwear based.
No?
I'll be going down to my sort of composite layering.
Got you.
And then I will go down to just a thong. No,
Just
a t-shirt. A t-shirt for the final one. So
Okay.
nothing on the lower half.
No. Well, we never wear anything with the lower half on this podcast.
We wear shoes, but not trousers.
Yep.
Yeah. Right. Ed, it's been a pleasure.
As always.
Sean and Ollie, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, guys.
Pleasure to serve alongside you. Hope you get over the terrible news, Sean.
Like he doesn't know.
You open the podcast by screaming.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. I used to do that. I used to open the podcast by screaming.
But you're celebrating the end of Cousin Fucking.
Right. That's us, I think.
Yes.
Any
Good.
closing remarks? You happy?
0.
Thank you very much for watching. We will see you on the next one.
Bye-bye.